right. Getting ready for St. Patrick's Day, huh? Oh, we've got a cocktail for you today. Woo-wee.
And guess what? It probably wasn't on your list, but it sure is now.
It probably wasn't.
No.
Yeah, it probably wasn't. Nope. This is just this is a forgotten classic. And a little bit later, I talk about the Stargazer. And one of the things I didn't mention when I was talking about the Stargazer cocktail bar is that they wanted to focus on cocktails like this, the forgotten classic. So when you go to that cocktail bar, Jules, when we come in town, they're going to have like the 20th century on the menu.
Love that one so much.
Tipperary's on the menu. Yep.
That's awesome. God, you know what? Because sometimes I think we're getting so far, which is why I love this podcast, is sometimes I think now with social media, we can go so far that we do forget a little bit the classics. Mm-hmm. So like we always say, make it right the first time so you know what good tastes like, and then you can evolve it from there.
Yeah, like go back to the golden age of cocktails, which is what one of these this cocktail comes from the golden age.
Yeah.
Even through the cocktail renaissance, which was the cocktails through Prohibition. And like just like seriously, like this podcast is a great way to get a foundation, and then all of a sudden like you can see how cocktails are patterned, right?
Yeah.
And there's a pattern to the way cocktails are made. Mm-hmm. And then when you see a cocktail and you go to a restaurant, you're like, I wonder how they did this. You're going to start to be like, oh, I bet this was a sour cocktail.
Yeah.
And they added an enhancer, right? Like, so it kind of became like a daisy, or this one's kind of like more of a martini or a Manhattan style, you know? So like definitely you can start to pick up on just the frameworks of so many different things. And it's just like, after that, it's experimenting because you're starting 60 to 70% of the way there with just a foundational knowledge of just different cocktail frameworks.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And it is funny to see how cocktails evolve. Just, you know, we're not doing this in order, right? Because I don't think I don't know if anybody ever has done the official order of cocktails before. Brad, I know you've talked about like your life goal to do something like that.
Yeah, you know what? Maybe we'll bust that out somewhere along this journey in 2025. Is just kind of go back to like, here, let's talk about the frameworks, right? I think we've tried, but like I don't know. It just like the more I do this, the more it just becomes clearer and clearer and clearer.
And
it's like you get closer and closer and closer.
Progresses, right?
Yeah, yeah, and like the detail, like you just can start to see finer details. It's like you ever see those. See them online once in a while, like those images, like it'll be a video of something where it kind of zooms in on something like an eye, right? And then inside the eye is like another photo. And it's like you zoom in on that photo, and then in that eye is another photo. You just kind of keep going deeper and deeper and deeper into this like, you know, detailed universe, which is exactly what this journey is like.
Totally. Yeah. Well, we do have a trigger warning for today's episode.
There are some trigger warnings.
Chartreuse is one of them. Yep. So that's this year warning.
But we offer you some options.
We do. We do. And then you guys, I'm so sorry again about today's episode, but I am just getting over a cold, and boy, it took me out. So the only thing I should be drinking is
that was the flu.
It was the flu.
Yeah.
It was the flu. And you know what? What an asshole that was. It was so mean. It was so mean. Oh, man, it was brutal. So I'm just getting over that. The only thing I should be drinking is a hot toddy right now. So forgive me, but next episode, I'm back. I'm back and better than ever. So, but I have still good recipes today to go over to follow up on Brad's. But I have to say, this cocktail, it's a pretty cool one. And if you haven't had it yet, highly recommend it, which I wanted to share, Brad, before we get into the recipes, something that I'm planning on doing this weekend.
What are you doing?
So I'm having, you know, when we're recording this, end of dry January, right? So we're having a end of dry January happy hour. So I thought it'd be fun, since we're in 2025, to make cocktails from 1925, which... hard to say 1925, but I thought that kind of era would be fun, and like just do classic cocktail stations. So I was thinking of doing maybe this cocktail, even though, the origin story might be earlier than 25, but I still think that would count. I think that would count. There's also the hanky panky. So I'm going to take photos and share that, but I think doing kind of like a 1925s era cocktail happy hour of having.
You know what you want to do? You want to do no cocktails that came after 1925.
Yes.
There you go.
Yeah, you flushed that out with me. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think having like 3 or 4 would be fun. So, and
for sure.
Because I really want to make this cocktail. I want people to be like, what the hell did you
Are you going to make
just
people maybe
me?
come in like kind of like 1920s attire?
Yeah, that's a big ask. That's a big ask for this group.
Ask.
Yeah, okay. No.
I mean, if you had asked me to do that, I'd been like, can I not? But okay.
Right.
Unless I had plenty of time to prepare, and then I might want to get in.
However, they'll be happy to drink it. That's for sure. So I will provide. And that's what I will do.
There you go. All right.
Anyway.
Well, we'll look forward to a full report on how your celebration went.
Era. Yeah.
Well, Jules, we got a cocktail to make. We've got to get into some history behind the drink, and then we've got a tip.
Yeah.
About
from our
how
website.
To organize your bar from. Who was the person that sent that in?
William Scott.
William Scott, who got a hold of us from our website, the Art of Drinking podcast.com.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
All right, y'all. Stick around.
Let's
go make a drink.
Brad.
Yep.
What's not to love about this one? Really?
I mean, I don't know. Nothing really. It's got all the cool stuff in it, you know?
I know. It has all the trigger words that I love.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, speaking of trigger words, I mean, one of the ingredients being chartreuse is triggering. Yeah. I was smart. I stocked up, and anytime I got somebody who's going to France where I'm going, they're bringing me chartreuse. Yeah. Or by the way, there was like chartreuse all over Italy. Did you see that? You could get chartreuse in Italy, no problem.
Yeah. Well, they're hoarding.
Hoarding.
Yeah. Hoarding it. Yeah. They're hoarding it.
They're hoarding it. It's like ordering and hoarding at the same time. I've been hoarding it actually. Now
exactly.
That we think about it. Yeah. A lot of hoarding over here.
Yeah. Exactly.
So for those of you who just like are, damn it, I can't get my hands on the old chartreuse. This Boomsa Cluster bitter here, I think works great. I've tried the Faccia Bruta. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it doesn't stack up. Or there's Senchum, right? So you've got options out there. It's just, is there ever going to be another replacement for chartreuse? No, chartreuse is chartreuse, but you can get close enough to enjoy a drink. So don't go poo-pooing drinks with chartreuse in them because you don't have the chartreuse. Okay.
Yeah, or just stick around for my recipes because we're going off script.
Yeah, go off script with Jules, right? Mm-hmm. But the monks are not coming back to make more chartreuse because we have problems. They are just they are doing what monks do. And
that's such an American way of us too. It's like
can't you stop praying and just come on? I need this stuff.
I know. I know. They're like, no, sorry, bye.
Yeah, sorry. So,
all right. So walk us through what we're making today. I'm excited because literally, Brad, all of these things just. Every time I hear it, it's like little fairy dust goes into my ear of happiness. Like I love everything that's in here.
Well, listen, who doesn't love a little fairy dust? So
right.
All right. So I have got with me 4 things, right, to make this drink. 4 ingredients, and so you're going to need an ounce and a half of Irish whiskey. You're going to need 1 ounce of sweet vermouth, half an ounce of green chartreuse or its equivalent, and 2 dashes of Angostura bitters. So I just told that to all of you. I'm going to put this all together. It's super simple to make. You're going to make it in your mixing glass. I'm going to add ice there and cut this out.
Yeah, and a half ounce of green chartreuse. Really, it's not too much. It's not enough to make you scared to make this cocktail.
Yeah, like, hey, listen, if you got some, you've been hoarding it like I have, or just maybe hoarding because you're not hoarding it because you're not ordering it. I'm just, you're hanging on to what
you're not ordering it. You're just hoarding it.
You got about 25 ounces in a bottle. You got about 50 Tipperaries.
Yeah,
all right?
Perfect.
All right. So all my ingredients go in the mixing glass, and I'm going to add my 2 dashes of Angostura bitters as well. So Ep.102. I'm going to turn my spoon the right way, and so it's not upside down in my glass. And then I'm just going to stir. I'm going to give it a good, I want to cool it off. I want to, add a little dilution, right? So to stir it for about 20, 30 seconds, and because this is going to be a very spirit-forward cocktail.
We love it.
And then once I am done stirring it, I'm just going to single strain it into my glass, okay?
Yeah. It really is funny, Brad, how palates change when you've been doing this for a little bit of time. I mean, I used to love the sours, the fruity drinks, the refreshing margaritas. But man, now I'm telling you, there is nothing better than a booze-forward cocktail.
I agree. Somebody gave me the feedback like, you shouldn't say booze-forward, you should say spirit-forward. And I'm like, well, potato.
I like booze-forward. It's more fun.
You say it however you want.
Yeah.
I like booze-forward. So I've got a big Coupe glass here that I just poured this into. Room enough for two.
And you do a Coupe and not a Nick and Nora, huh? Because I would think the amount. Could you do either?
I mean, if you wanted to put it in Nick and Nora, I don't think anybody's going to send you to jail. That's for sure.
But, right. Not here. Not on this podcast.
No, not on this podcast. But, I mean, Coupe glass works. I think a Nick and Nora would be fine. But, tradition says Coupe glass.
All right,
so
well, there you go.
I've got my little orange twist, and I'm just going to kind of rub it around the edge and just kind of hang it over here. So put it up to my lips and give you a little cheers here first, Jules.
It's kind of giving like Manhattan, right?
Yeah. It's definitely, it has Manhattan vibes, but herbally. Herbally.
I might make this weekend.
Very herbal. Yes.
Wow.
So if you like bitter herbal cocktails, spirit forward, give this one a roll. It's pretty good. Yep. It's pretty good. I do thumbs up. Nice clear color. What does that got to it? It's kind of almost like a, it has a excuse me. I don't know why I get so emotional when I talk about this. It has this like Manhattan kind of color to it, right?
Yeah, it does. And it's not served over a cube, which of course this would be doing it the wrong way, quote unquote. But do you think for some people, if they want that dilution, they could add a cube? Do you think that would work, or you say
again,
no?
So I think before we're always saying like, hey, make it right the first time. And I do believe like make it right the first time, try it. But if it's too spirit forward for you, I mean, yeah, let it mellow over a cube if you want and put it on the rocks and just kind of let it continually mellow.
Yeah.
I mean, this is an in your face spirit forward cocktail, but it's not like going to make you like choke, like,
Right. Yeah. Do like
really,
two coughs, like,
it's smooth, but it's herbal. Right.
Yeah. Okay.
So, yeah.
Nice.
All right.
Well, Brad, this was a hard cocktail to riff off of. I think like a Manhattan is difficult to riff off of. And listener, we could have done the easy route of, maybe let's infuse our Irish whiskey, or maybe we're going to, add this type of bitters. And yes, absolutely go try that. But I actually was doing some research on this cocktail, and I thought it would be fun to share my findings. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, I'm still getting over my cold, so I'm not making the cocktails today. But there's 2 recipes for the Tipperary No. 2 that I found, which I actually thought was kind of fun. So I wanted to share those with you. So now the Tipperary No. 2 is unrelated to the No. 1, but they both appear in the 1930s cocktail book by Harry Craddock. This is according to Difford's Guide. So has nothing to do with the original Tipperary, but this is called No. 2. You're going to probably find it a little funny, the ingredients, but I want, listener, if you want to with us, make both and see which one you like over the other. So for this No. 2, like Brad, you'll get your Coupe glass, put that in the freezer. You'll want that to be frozen because, again, you're not serving this over ice. And then you're going to grab your mixing glass. To a mixing glass, you're going to add in 2 ounces of gin. And while you're at it, make it an Irish gin, because why not? 1 ounce of dry vermouth, 1/4 ounce of fresh orange juice, and 1/4 ounce of pomegranate syrup or grenadine. And then you're also going to clap in 7 mint leaves. From here, you're going to add your ice, do your stir for about 30 rotations, and then you're going to strain that into your chilled coupe. Okay. So that was Tipperary number 2. Literally, I mean, no relation to the first one outside of the vermouth, but this is dry and not sweet. So it really is a little far-fetched, but I mean, it sounds good, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. That was in a book for a reason. And I appreciate that you're still recovering from being very, very ill and not up to sipping on a cocktail today. And
this would have been a perfect hot toddy day.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah, the flu sucks. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
But it's funny. That's when I was reading up on the history, I came across the number 2 and I'm like,
what?
Where the hell did this come from? Like, it's not even close.
Not even close. Not even close.
I don't mean to put you on the spot, but do you have an example of an Irish gin?
Yeah, I do. Bertha's Revenge is one of my favorite Irish gins. That does have it's made with the whey of the milk protein. Brad, I think we've talked about this before.
That milk
gin? Oh
my.
It's so good. But that said, I don't think that one would work with this cocktail just because of those fresh flavors. I would almost want that in like a Negroni, right?
Yeah.
But gunpowder gin is another one. That'd be great in this.
Well, yeah, but I mean, so if you don't want to be so specific about Irish gins, I mean, play around with gins, right? You don't have to go with a London Dry if you don't want to. It's, if you like a little more of kind of a floral, right? Hendrix has that Flora Adora, right?
Yeah, I just use that in a cocktail too. Oh my God. If you put that in the right cocktail, it works beautifully.
By the way, so remember when we were out in New Orleans and we had the Cabaret?
Oh, that was
the
awesome.
Hendrix Cabaret. And God, that was just so good as a highball.
I
know. God, it was so good. I can't wait for next year. That's this year, actually.
That is this year. No, I know.
It's in a few months, actually.
Yeah, we got to start teeing up our listeners because we're going back.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, honestly, listeners, if you think you want to go down to the Tales of the Cocktail and experience a truly epic cocktail adventure, let us know. Let's get together and let's go. Hit a couple of these
so fun
events. It's so cool. It's so cool. I'm telling you. All right.
So, Brad, I have one more thing up my sleeve.
Oh, you do?
Yeah. Well, because I was like, there's no way this is number 2, and of course it is, right? And you even found in your findings, but. And, I didn't cite my source. I think it might have been Punch, maybe Imbibe, probably Imbibe magazine. But they had another version for number 2. And this sounds a little bit more in line with what you made. And so quickly rattling off, like Brad, in a mixing glass, you're going to serve it in a coupe. But you're going to add in 1.5 ounces of Irish whiskey, 1 ounce sweet vermouth, and 1/4 ounce of yellow chartreuse. And I wanted to add this because I've found that some people find yellow chartreuse easier than the green.
Yeah.
So this would be an interesting one to try if you have that more likely on hand than the other. But this is another option I found as a riffy-do off the Tipperary, which I thought was fun.
Yeah, I love yellow chartreuse. In fact, I got to tell you a funny story. So. This friend of mine, Gail, who we know from Vikings games, because she is a friend of the seat neighbor. So she comes over to the house, and I'm like, "Hey, Gail, can I make a cocktail?" And she's like, "Well, I don't know. Like, what do you think?" And I was like, "You know what? I'm gonna make you a yellow chartreuse highball." Mm-hmm. And it's like her favorite cocktail.
Oh my
she
God,
loves it.
It's good.
So,
it's good. That's a perfect way to really taste yellow chartreuse without just having a little sipper. Put it in a highball. Oh my God. Yeah. Chef's kiss right there.
Yeah. And you're in good with me when I will bust out the chartreuse and make you a highball with that thing. 'Cause
oh yeah, that's
nice. Just as hard to find as the green. So
yes.
But
that means
Gail,
you're a little special.
I always got your yellow chartreuse highball waiting. All right. Well, hey, let's go ahead and let's move on to the history.
Well, Brad, I hope I didn't give too much away with the 1930s Harry Craddock nod there in my recipe, but leads me to believe it was around that time that this cocktail was made.
Well, 1930s. No, it was actually earlier than that. Jules.
Oh, okay.
This cocktail actually is more than 110 years old.
No way.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. If it was a person,
History
it would have
in
died
glass.
possibly twice by now.
Wow. That's great. Isn't that crazy how long ago that was?
Yeah.
Like,
No,
it doesn't feel that long ago, but
It doesn't.
It was a long time ago.
No. 110 years, yeah. So this doesn't have the deepest history as some of the other recipes that we've talked about do. But if, if we have time, maybe I'll go into a little something about Irish whiskey if we have time.
Ooh, God, I love Irish whiskey.
But this cocktail definitely, I don't know. It's. I think they all have a fun story, right? I always like to know where these things come from.
You always do this. You're like, I don't know about this story, and then it ends up being like the best one.
Well, we'll see. All right, so origin, invention. So this cocktail first emerged in the early 20th century, right? So this was towards the end of the golden age of cocktails, which the golden age of cocktails really kind of ended when Prohibition started, and then we had like a cocktail renaissance happen, right?
Yeah.
But the golden age ended, the American golden age, because we stopped, like you couldn't drink anymore. And
Sadly.
again, like if you've picked up on it before, I'll say it here again. The cocktail was like America's pride and joy export,
Wait,
like,
Brad.
yeah.
Okay. I just saw something today. It was the coolest fun fact that was so obvious about Prohibition, but I would have never guessed. There's a photo of the shoes that I guess you would call them bootleggers, right? For Prohibition that would transport. They made the bottom of their shoe look like cow hooves. So when they would walk, we wouldn't be able to see that it was people's feet. It looked like animals' feet. How hilarious is that?
Yeah, they went to great lengths to smuggle the old good stuff.
Oh my God. I saw that and I was like, that's genius.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if we ever talked about this really when we talked about the history of whiskey, but the term moonshining, that's actually a Scottish term.
Really?
Yeah. So back in Scotland, which the Tipperary is made with Irish whiskey, so I don't know why we're taking this tangent, but we are. Back in Scotland, they taxed whiskey just like they taxed whiskey here, and people didn't like it, right? And so to avoid the tax man, people would make scotch at night or by moonlight.
Oh.
Yep. And that's where the term moonshine came from. And when and if you're Scottish or Irish, when these ancestors went into the hills of Kentucky and Tennessee and whatnot, and they wanted to avoid the tax man too, guess what they were doing? They were making moonshine.
Moonshine. Yeah. Wow. I mean, it's something to where it's like, yeah, that's so obvious, but wouldn't never know.
Yeah. So the cocktail is an American invention, and that was an American cultural export, and we weren't really known, right, for much culture back in the day, anyway. Right? Like we were known for fighting, and we were known for kind of mediocre food, you know, and so we finally landed something, and that was the cocktail. And the world took off with that, which is why you had American bars popping up all over the place, and it wasn't a bar run by Americans. It was, telling people you can get an American-style drink in this bar, cocktail.
Uh-huh.
So, all right, so back to the story. So the Tipperary was invented in the early 20th century. We don't know the exact date. We don't know the exact date because nobody really took the time to write this down. But this was during a time when cocktails were flourishing and bartenders were experimenting with all kinds of new combinations because of trade. And you've got all these new spirits and flavors coming into the United States. And this cocktail's creation, actual title, is, kind of really historically from, it's historically was kind of connected to World War I, they think, right? And then there's another story that they have here too, and we'll kind of touch on both. So again, there's no definitive claim to who the inventor is. People often think it was Hugo Estlin who invented the cocktail, but Estlin was not the inventor. And Estlin, if you remember, he's this New York bartender, and we may have talked about him in the past before a couple of times.
Okay.
He was a New York bartender and author, right? He wasn't the one who invented it, but he was the first one to write about it in his 1916 book, recipes for mixed drinks. And this book was notable not only for introducing the Tipperary, but it was also the first time we ever found out about the aviation cocktail.
Ah, one of your favorites, yes.
One of my favorites, yep. So despite its Irish name, the cocktail is believed to have been originated not in Ireland, but likely in New York City. And this is especially true if it ended up in Estlund's book, who was a New York bartender, right? So this guy, Estlund, was a bit of an obscure bartender. I mean, he wasn't, a Jerry Thomas, but he worked in a lot of second-tier New York hotel bars. So while he didn't make the rounds behind like the fancy schmancy places like the Waldorf Astoria, but he did get around town plenty, and that is made evident by the fact that the guy came up with a cocktail book, right? He collected a lot of cocktail recipes.
Uh-huh.
So this, again, is a fine example of the golden age of cocktails, right? Where, like spirits and liquors from various countries, they're coming together. They're getting in the hands of skilled American bartenders and in America's largest cities. And this is one that combines Irish whiskey from Ireland, right? Mm-hmm. You've got Green Chartreuse from France, and then Sweet Red Vermouth, which is from Italy. And sometimes might be from France, too. And then the modern version of it uses Angostura bitters, which is from Trinidad and Tobago. Now, the original recipe, as documented by Hugo Estlund, was called for equal parts of Irish whiskey, sweet vermouth, and green chartreuse. And people thought that was pretty sexy. Equal parts. Yep.
Jeez.
People liked that.
That's going to be a tough morning.
Well, think about it. I mean, green chartreuse is 110 proof.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hey.
Like, how you doing?
Well, you need 2 of those max.
Oh my God. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Like 2 max and you are like just fine, right?
Yeah.
That's my wife's grandmother had this saying that if somebody was drunk, they were flying the mail to Pittsburgh. I don't know where that comes from.
Yeah.
But
I don't know.
I guess you're flying the mail to Pittsburgh.
You are.
Too many of these.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm flying high, baby. Yeah.
So over time, the cocktail evolved, right? So you've got Harry McAlone's book, which was the 1922 book, ABC of Mixing Cocktails. And he increased the whiskey content while reducing the vermouth and the chartreuse. Mm-hmm. And then Harry Craddock came out with the Savoy cocktail book. And Craddock included what he called the Tipperary cocktail #1. But then also, which was Estlund's original recipe, but then also introduced us to the #2 Jules, right?
Yeah,
and that's what you
which
found.
has nothing similar for the most part.
Yeah, one of my favorite quotes as we've gone through this history, tour that I've gone on, is when I was researching the Bramble, and Dick Bradsell said, it's creme de mure that gets used in the Bramble. If you want to use creme de cassis or Chambord, then call it something else because it's not a Bramble anymore.
Yeah, yeah.
And that kind of drives me crazy a little bit when people are like, oh, this is the Tipperary, but has nothing to do with anything. What are you talking about?
Yeah. And also, how did you put that in your brain that this is even close to being similar? The
I know.
measurements aren't even the same.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's a reason, but the guy's dead, so I don't know what it is. So we'll never know.
Can't ask him.
Yeah, can't ask him. I'll you get your Ouija board out, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Hey, there you go.
Yeah, well.
We're in for a wild night and have 2 Tipperaries.
No shit. All right, so today it has Angostura bitters, and the International Bartenders Association, which is the list of seminal cocktails that I just love that list. This recognizes the Tipperary as the official cocktail, and it gets ordered enough that it made it onto their list. And they're the ones that they say, hey, look, Angostura bitters needs to go in there too. I mean, other people do now as well, but it evolved to include Angostura bitters. And and then you've got this twist this orange zest twist or orange peel twist that you can put in there if you want.
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe that's kind of like a shout out back to the #2. Who knows? But there's nothing orange about this cocktail, but you put the orange twist in.
Yeah, and I mean, anyway, it's just bizarre, the 1 and the 2. I'm still not over it, but,
Yeah.
no orange on that one.
So the origin stories, again, we don't know who exactly invented it, but the theory is, one of the working theories is that it's closely associated with an immensely popular World War I song It's a long way to Tipperary, which became an anthem for Irish regiments in Allied forces during the war. Have you ever heard it?
No.
Paddy wrote a letter to his Irish Molly-o. You not heard this?
How do you know
Saying
this?
you do not receive it right and let me know. If I make mistakes in spelling, Molly dear, said he, remember it's the pen that's bad and don't lay the blame on me. It's a long way to Tipperary. It's a long way to go. Never heard of it, huh?
Wow, no, but thank you. Now I have. Oh my God, I'm gonna play that.
The sweetest girl I know. Yeah. This goes into your Spotify playlist right now.
100%. 100%.
Yep. Well, I tell you what you should be doing for St. Patrick's Day.
I was gonna say
this has got to get dialed in.
Yeah. Wait.
Yeah.
I was like, wait. Why aren't we making this like a tradition for patties?
Well, this is why
There
we're
we
talking
go.
about the drink. This is
Buckle
going
up.
on. Your St. Patty's.
Buckle up, folks.
Yeah. Buckle
Yeah,
up.
this is awesome. Oh, I love it. I love the Irish.
I do.
Don't tell Tom, okay?
Tom? Oh, he loves the Irish too. He's
I know.
on St. Patrick's Day. Guess what? He's also Irish.
You know what? We're all Irish on St. Patrick's Day.
Love you, Tom. Love you, my brother Tom.
Also, listener, it's because we're Scottish. We're more Scottish than we are Irish. So it's just a running joke.
Yeah. Macintosh side of the house, you guys are Scottish.
You're Scottish.
Hey, that's right. You're Scottish and you're angry.
God, those accents never. Those are your two best, I think. Those have to be your two best.
So a guy approached me and he's like, "Hey, I got an idea for the city. I want to do this event called the potato race, and for St. Patrick's Day, and they're gonna race potatoes down a ramp, and like maybe we'll throw and like do heats, right? Of
Shut
like
up.
you start off with like a bunch of people, and then you kind of finally get down to two, and they race potatoes down the
Oh
ramp.
my God.
And then he's like, and then like maybe we can do like an Irish accent contest. I'm like, oh my God, I love this. Like,
Yeah.
I
These
want
are
to
all
see
good
this
ideas.
event happen. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my God,
right.
that's amazing.
So that was the first story. Maybe it came from the song. The second story is like maybe it's actually inspired by the Irish county of Tipperary, which is the oldest county in Ireland. And that is at least what cocktail enthusiast, journalist, and cocktail book author Albert Stevens Crockett said. He, in 1935, wrote a cocktail book, the Old Waldorf Astoria Bar Book. And in that book, he wrote, invented a long time ago, before the wartime song of that name was heard, so it must be considered a direct namesake of an Irish county in so-called Fon exile. 2/3 slow gin, 1/3 French vermouth, teaspoon of lemon juice, and frappe. Which it's like, again, what? Like, how is this like
Different.
What in the hell is going on? Like,
We're not all on the same page at this point.
yeah.
Jeez.
Nobody's singing out the same hymnal
No.
right now.
Nope.
Right.
Nope.
Yeah.
No.
So we talked about that book. We talked about Macalone. It was in Craddock's Savoy cocktail book. So this thing, like it wasn't, it was definitely a popular drink, right? Like this thing was a thing. And then it just, I don't know, it just kind of disappeared. You just don't see it for somehow it's on the IBA list, and so it's getting ordered enough that it ends up on the IBA list. But I don't know where, because every bar I've gone to, I've never seen the drink before. In fact, when I was looking at it, I'm like, oh, what's this obscure drink? And I was like, well, wait a minute, how's this on the IBA?
Yeah.
But I told you about this bar in Minneapolis called the Stargazer, right?
I think so.
It's a new bar. Our friend Jeff Rogers, who we know from Dashfire, he moved over to the Stargazer, and he's like running that cocktail program. And then you've heard me talk about Travail, which is this like
of course,
epic high-end restaurant right here in good old Robbinsdale, right? They are also owners of this place, and they opened this place up, and it's just a cocktail bar with some kind of like fun bites.
I put it on our list, by the way. It's on our map now.
It belongs.
Yeah, really.
It belongs on the list, and I'm going to tell you why.
Okay.
So I was in there about a month ago, right? Maybe it's a couple months ago by the time this comes out. And walk in there with Amy, and no reservations. And like I think it seats 40 people. And if you don't have a spot to sit, then you go on a waiting list. And the reason why is that if you're going to spend the money that you're going to spend in there for the drinks, which by the way, they're not unreasonable in today's dollars, it's not unreasonable.
Yeah, sure.
And then, spend a few bucks on food, which again, it's just like bar bites and stuff. You're not going in there for like a big dinner. People, you don't want somebody hanging over you, right, at the bar. You don't want them like up against you, like putting their arm through you to get a drink, right?
Not at a good craft cocktail bar, no.
So I can respect that model because, look, it clearly works for them. And those guys, poor Jeff is like, oh my God, you wouldn't believe the nasty reviews people leave because they couldn't get a seat. Like you didn't even try the beverage, but you like got a nasty review because that. I couldn't. I know, it's like people are so entitled. Like, I'm going to Yelp and I'm going to let people know what I think about this place. I respect that they do that. And yeah, is it kind of a pain in the ass? Sure. By the way, he did say, he's like, you and Jules need to come out here and do an episode here. So like, again, Jules, just another reason, like, get your ass on a plane and get out here, please.
I know.
Please.
I'm gonna try to do another book tour this upcoming summer, and it's like the hot spot on my list.
Cool. Yeah, a lot of good stuff happening in Minneapolis. So yeah, so shout out to the folks at Stargazer. For any of you who are in Minneapolis or plan to visit Minneapolis, it is definitely worth getting to and just putting yourself on the wait. They'll give you like a call when your seat's ready, so you can go around some of the other places and just kind of enjoy yourself a little bit. So fun times.
And hey, listener, if you go to our Instagram, our website should have it as well. But on our highlights, we have this link for the Art of Drinking map. And it has all of our saved cocktail bars that we talk about on the podcast. So go check that out if you haven't yet, or if you're looking for a cocktail bar this weekend.
And there you go. Yeah. So cocktails respected. We don't know who invented it. Pretty sure it was invented in the United States, although some guy thinks, well, maybe, actually he just thinks that he didn't say anything about it not being invented in the United States. He just thinks that maybe it was named after the county in Ireland versus
I like the song.
The song's
good. The song. Yeah, song's good.
It's a long way to Tipperary.
Yeah.
It's a good marcher.
Anytime I get to hear it.
Yeah, it really slaps. Really slaps.
Yeah, play that while you make it.
Yeah, play it while you make it. So, I don't know if we have time for this.
Okay, bring it.
But we talked about the history of whiskey, right?
Yeah.
And there was something I said in there about the coffee still. And I want to clarify something. So, there's this guy, his last name is Coffee, and he invented a still called the coffee still. So, if you ever see like something that says like coffee, Coffey, that's what it's referring to, because there's like this Japanese whiskey out there that's coffee grain and coffee malt, but what it's referring to is the fact that it was made in a coffee still. Now, the still that was invented by the Irish in 1830 was revolutionary because it actually had lower fuel costs, had an it had a higher output, and reduce maintenance compared to traditional stills, because we were all using pot stills, right? Alembic stills.
Yeah.
Interesting thing is, and I may have switched this around when I talked about this in the history of whiskey, is that he brought this to his Irish brethren and said, hey, look at me still. I got a great still here for you. And it's going to make things go real fast, and you're going to be able to produce a lot of whiskey. And it's going to cost you less money in the long run to make this whiskey, right? And they're like, no, I'm not going to take your still. I'm going to make my whiskey the right way, in a pot. And I'm going to drag my feet, and I'm going to spend more money on doing it. And on top of that, take your still and get the hell out, right? So he's like, all right, well, fuckers. So he goes over to Scotland, and he says, hey, I got an idea. I got this great still. And the Scottish are looking at it, here's his pitch, and they're like, well, that's a great idea. Look at that. We can make Scotch whiskey, and it's going to be cheaper and faster, and we're going to mass market Scotch and conquer the world with Scotch. Well, guess what happened? Scotch whiskey took off because they started using this dude's still to make blended Scotch whiskeys, which became wildly popular, and they were able to make a lot of it and just get it out into the market, while the Irish are like still doing it the old way. And so you kind of saw Irish whiskey, like, if you ever think about it, like, how many different brands of Scotch are there? There's a ton, right? Yeah. Now, there's some other complications that came into stunting Irish whiskey's production, but geez Louise, like, Scotch just took the frick off. Well, Irish whiskey just floundered for now. Irish whiskey's kind of finding a renaissance over the past couple of maybe the past decade or so, maybe a little bit more.
Yeah.
So you're starting to see other distilleries pop up, but like you don't have a lot of old Irish distilleries anymore.
Right.
I mean, you have
or
a handful.
That prestige that you have with Scotch,
but
right?
Scotch, you've got all this, And now they still make Scotch in pot stills, but like when you blend Scotch and stuff, this is like. The coffee still was just like it was this column still that just allowed for an efficient production of alcohol.
Wow.
And that's why Irish whiskey kind of floundered behind Scotch.
Damn Irish.
But I will tell you, just like we said in the whiskey history episode, like Irish whiskey definitely has a richer flavor to it, where Scotch is a little bit lighter and smoother, and that's because of the coffee still.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I personally like Irish whiskey better. I like it better than bourbon sometimes too. Like Irish whiskey and a little rye. Oh,
yeah. Yes. I tell you, I go through phases where I'll drink Irish whiskey and then I'll drink Scotch, and man, I'm just a big fan of Irish whiskey. Big fan.
I know. Well, I don't like the peat. I'm not a peaty guy. That's why I'm more the Irish, and the Irish whiskey sweeter. And the peat for me with the Scotch, it's too much peat.
Yeah, it just can get a little too smoky. But some people love it. Like,
which is funny because I love mezcal. So.
I know, because that's like seriously, that's so smoky. But yeah, no, I do. I love Scotch, but it's just I go and I have moods where I'll drink Scotch, I'll drink Irish whiskey, and then I'm moving on to bourbon.
Isn't that the beauty of it all, though?
What?
That's the beauty of it all, isn't it?
It is. Yeah.
Come on, just have fun with it. And I think don't waste your time on the bad stuff, and just try to invest in the good stuff, and then just have fun with it.
Mm-hmm.
It's good times.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, Jules, that is the story of the Tipperary, and on top of that, you got a little Brad Sutton theater with the history of the coffee still, and like I said, there's so much to talk about with whiskey. We could talk about it forever. But,
and we will.
Yeah. Let's get on to the tips, huh?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. This is a fun one this week because today's, I guess you would call it a question, was actually submitted from our website. And so it was sent to our email. So that's awesome. And if you don't know, go to www.theartofdrinkingpodcast.com. We have all of our episode recaps, the links to listen to them, the full recipes, and we have a section you can fill out to ask your questions. And we also have a place where you can subscribe to our newsletter. So then every other week when our episodes come out, we send you an email to let you know so you don't miss out on the latest episode. So all that to be said, we got a submission from William Scott. And I thought, Brad, you'd think this is funny. And I'm going to kind of let you take this one.
Oh,
but,
good. Hot pass. Okay.
Yeah. Yep. But I did write my notes. So William Scott said, "Hey, guys, my bar is now taking up a whole 4x6 bookshelf. Does this hobby ever stop growing?" My notes? No. But I did. One of the things I want to note with this is, Brad, after we share this week's episode, go to our Instagram, William, and we're going to share a photo of Brad's booze stock and everything that's behind him. And then I'm going to show you my shelf to show you that no, it just gets worse, but not negatively worse.
Yeah.
But I will say it doesn't stop growing. And with that, I thought that this would be fun to provide you solutions of how to stay organized and how to have fun with it. One of my biggest takeaways with the ever-growing hobby is consolidation. I've had a lot of bottles take up space, so I feel like if you can consolidate, that'll help, the strain on your liquor cabinet. But Brad, I really do. I want you to take this if you have any tips.
Yeah. So for starters, if you are like me and you walk into a liquor store, and I find that as entertaining as some might find going into like an art museum, right?
Yeah.
Then you're in trouble, and you're going to have a big liquor collection as time goes on, especially if you can go to a liquor store and it's one of the cool ones that does like multiple different brands tasting at once.
Those are dangerous. Yeah.
Yeah. Because that's how my liquor collection grew. is I just started going to these tastings and
Certic Saturdays, right?
Certic Saturdays, and I'd get a good shine on.
Yeah.
And then pretty soon I was walking out with 3-4 bottles that I come home and I'm like, what am I going to do?
Oops. Big oops.
Yeah. So what I do is I have found that through collecting, sometimes I forget what I have and I'll buy another one of the same thing and then I'll just consolidate them down. Yeah. Sometimes you get a bottle and you don't necessarily like it, right? So maybe throw that into like some form of a punch or something, that the flavor that you don't like gets lost in. Be careful with liqueurs because especially anything that's fortified wine.
Yeah.
And
which is, what percentage is that? How low is that?
I knew you were going to ask me that, and I don't know off the top of my head, but I can find out and insert a little audio clip here.
Okay.
But the thing is that the fortified wines, they will age, and they will just amber and just not taste right. Not going to die if you drink them, but it's like just not as good as it was.
Yeah.
So elderflower,
think like a flat soda instead of it being filled with all the bubbles.
Elderflower liqueur is like one of the classic, like makes you kind of want to cry. They need a medium
bottle.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's like it's not cheap. 2, it's so delicate and delicious. 3, it's hard to use it all.
Yeah.
Yeah. And listen, there's things that you're going to want to keep in the fridge. So like liqueurs, certain liqueurs you might want to keep in the fridge. But like any creamed liqueur, you want to kind of keep refrigerated because those do have a shelf life. Like you can keep a bottle of Bailey's on the shelf and not refrigerated, but if you're refrigerated, it just lasts a little longer. But for sure, your vermouths need to be refrigerated, and they'll burn out on you in about 6 weeks refrigerated. So what else can I tell you? I organize my liquor by type. So I've got shelves dedicated to rum, and then I've got shelves dedicated to gin and vodka and tequila and mezcal and brandy and whiskeys. But then I divide my whiskeys by Scotch whiskeys, international whiskeys, and then just kind of blended whiskeys. And then I've got bourbon whiskey, rye whiskey, and it's great. I've got a problem. When I die, I hope that my family throws the biggest party ever.
Oh my God.
Not because I'm dead, but because I have all this alcohol to get through.
We need to enjoy it. Yeah. Oh my God, that's hilarious. I mean to say, if you watch us on YouTube, you've seen the backdrop, and if not,
or the Instagram. It's right behind me here. Like, hello.
Yeah. No, totally. But like, we're only saying the middle of it. I mean, there's a left and a right to YouTube.
Totally. Like, you go this way. Like, this stuff goes on, and I'm not even like that's just what you can see. Like, if I bent the camera down, you could see more bottles stacked up underneath in the shelves below, and I've got bottles in my closet, right? So it's like, and Jules, your situation is like, because people are like sending you like.
Well, right. So
bottles.
I got like 3. I have 3. I have 1 at the office. I have 1 personal. I have a storage unit on my house that we call the liquor locker, and that's just the backlog of stuff. So I'll share all those. It is pretty funny. It's not as organized. I always try to keep it organized, but people keep pulling bottles and they don't put them away right. And then one thing, you know how it goes.
Maintenance. You gotta maintain. Yeah. Otherwise it gets out of, If you start collecting a lot of bottles, you gotta keep them organized, and people will pull them out, and you're just going to have to that's your baby. You just got to put it back to bed.
Yeah. Put it back to bed. Brad, you literally hit everything on my list that I was going to say. The only thing I was going to say, you said too, if you have some spirits you don't like, maybe you're not as fond of, you said to put them in a punch. My solution was infuse. Play with some infusions there. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or gift them.
William, short answer, no.
Sorry, buddy.
Sorry.
You love this as much as me.
Oh, but it's
dedicate
fun.
a portion of your paycheck to this.
Yeah. And here's the deal.
Now
we'll
we're starting to get
stop
stuff sent
giving
to us
you
too,
ideas. Yeah.
So
there you go. There's that for you. It's just had to brighten your weekend. Go out to a liquor store and buy more.
That's right. Spread the joy. Well, Jules, that's that.
Is that it? All right. That's a wrap.